everybody, the week is over, and thank God for that, because this was a rough week. I am so excited about the 3-day weekend that I have. And the best part about the 3-day weekend is that it gives me extra time to finish up my question and answers video, which will be the next video I post. I should finish filming it all up sometime this weekend. The video should be finalized and up, posted, and ready to go by Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that. Tuesday is when the question and answers video is coming out. But I have a lot of stuff to cover today, a lot of stuff I want to get through, some of it wrestling related, some of it not wrestling related. One topic in particular that's not wrestling related. But going into the wrestling stuff, there were 3 shows that I watched in the last week. I previewed them in my previous video. I watched all 3 of them, and I wanted to give my thoughts on them. Let's start with the best one first. NXT had their latest takeover special on Wednesday night. It was great, once again. At this point, I just sound like a broken record, praising the NXT shows and how good they are and how great, how much they really deliver on these takeover specials. Like, it's really unbelievable. And again, it's that old tortoise in the hare mindset of slow and steady wins the race. They spend 2 or 3 months slowly building up to the takeover specials, and then they deliver, and it feels awesome. You get the payoffs that you want, you get great matches and everything in between. It's just fantastic. And it's really unbelievable that NXT is under the same WWE umbrella that also encompasses Monday Night Raw. It really is remarkable, and I'm going to elaborate on that a lot more when I talk about the MSG special. But going into the specifics of the TakeOver special, it wasn't even like one of the better TakeOver specials, but it was still like really, really damn good, and I'd much rather watch something like this over a majority of what's out there today, especially with Lucha Underground still on hiatus, which I hear they're filming in November, which... cool. Cannot wait for season 2. Gonna love that. But, let's go into the specifics of the show. We'll start off with the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which, the finals were the second to last match on the show, but I'll just lump them all together just to get as much out of the way as quick as possible. Good end of the tournament. Some really good tag team action. It was nice to see tag team matches that didn't just boil down into a tornado tag free-for-all. For the most part, especially the first match, and even the second match a little bit. They kept that down to a minimum and followed the rules of tag team wrestling and still managed to put on exciting matches. I wish other wrestling companies would follow suit. TNA's tag team title match at Bound for Glory had that problem. Ring of Honor has that problem on a weekly basis, to the point that it almost feels like a parody of themselves, especially if you're watching the Young Bucks. But yeah, I enjoyed the end of the tag team tournament. It was good overall. It was fun. The first match was a good opener. You start off with Balor and Joe, so it has like a big spark, big jump right from the get-go. Balor got his leg injured, which set up an ongoing story to lead into the finals. I'll cover that when I talk about the finals. But yeah, he injured his leg and went into the finals with an injury. And just good basic tag team action all around. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder looked pretty good in there. Again, that's one of the things I liked about this tournament, because one of the few things that NXT didn't really have was a tag team division. When the Ascension were on top, it was just them and anybody else that got fed to them. Then they brought up the Lucha Dragons, and Enzo and Cass started to get pushed a little bit, and the Vaudevillains, but then you lost the Lucha Dragons and the Ascension, and then you had Balor and Itami, but their pairing didn't last too long. And then before you knew it, you're right back to having like 3 or 4, if you were lucky, 3 or 4 tag teams. And with the start of this tournament, they put a lot of teams together to get ready for it. Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, Dawson and Wilder, I don't believe they were in team until earlier this summer. So, Blake and Murphy have kind of come into their own after getting off to kind of a rough start. I think Alexa Bliss really helped them out. So now the tag team division feels a little bit more loaded, and there's a bit more of a bit more depth in the tag team division. And overall, I thought Dawson and Wilder looked good in this match. They played the heel role pretty well, and it was just good. It was just good, solid match to kick off the show. I really liked it. Second match was even better. You had the Brute heels, Rhino and Corbin, taking on Jordan and Gable, who kind of became the baby faces by default. And the crowd really loved Gable. I mean, they were chanting his name to Kurt Angle's theme, which was hilarious. There were a lot of great chants throughout the show. When they started chanting "Better Than Raw," I'm like, yep, kind of true. It's like, yep, that's definitely true. It's better than the rest of the WWE in general. And again, it's just shocking that NXT is under the same umbrella as the rest of the WWE. It's mind-boggling. It really is. When you look at how it's booked and how it's presented, it is just so much better. And I wouldn't mind if NXT just took over WrestleMania this year. Wouldn't bother me a bit. Just put Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens on there, like NXT title versus IC title or something. I don't know. Put Bayley versus Sasha on there. The Divas. WWE Divas title versus NXT Women's title or whatever, whatever, put the Vaudevillains on the card. That would make me happy. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I thought this match was very, very good. I thought the action was great. Jordan and Gable got to cut loose a little bit and be a lot more athletic than they normally are on TV, which works out quite well when you save the big moves for special occasions like this. And again, I thought the match was very exciting, very good. Corbin and Rhino work well as a kind of brute tag team. Some people complain that Jordan and Gable didn't go over because they clearly won over a lot of people with this match. I was fine with Corbin and Rhino going over because they were the heels by default, because Jordan and Gable kind of got over as baby faces here, big time. So if they don't start pushing them as baby faces, that would be foolish. But, they got over as baby faces here. And to me, if you have Finn Balor going in injured up against a babyface team, the injury is not going to carry as much weight. You want to be mad at the bad guys that are injuring his leg. And, it's going to be hard to do when the crowd's chanting for Gable and Jordan. So I didn't mind Corbin and Rhino going over, and I thought the match that set up the finals was very good. The finals itself was good, had one problem, and it's actually with Finn Balor. And just to show I am willing to criticize the guys that I like, he goes into this match with a leg injury, and unfortunately the leg injury amounts to nothing. I'm not saying that Balor and Joe had to lose. What I'm saying is that Balor still did drop kicks. He still did. The finish was the coup de grace. He did some enziguris and everything, so it didn't really hurt his repertoire at all. The outcome of the match would have been exactly the same whether he was, selling a leg injury or not. So why even do the leg injury? And I'll talk about this more when I talk about the main event. But what I'm talking about, if you're going to do an injury, then it should impact the story of the match in some way, shape, or form. As an example, all right, if you take out Finn Balor's leg, then the drop kicks, the enziguris, and the coup de grace should not be in his repertoire. So if he's going to win this match, he has to come up with something different to beat them. And that's what I would have liked to see. Like, see Finn Balor bring out this cool new move or something that doesn't require his legs, him doing a kick or anything like that, or the foot stomp, or, move similar to that. Or Samoa Joe has to carry the heavy load, something like that, just to make the injury actually mean something. But ultimately, the injury amounted to nothing, and unfortunately kind of hurt the overall story of this match. But overall, it was still a good, solid tag match between the two teams. Nice finals to the tournament. Balor and Joe won, which kind of surprised me. I thought there would be some kind of miscommunication between the two, and that would lead to them having their feud over the NXT Championship. But no, they won straight up, and they celebrated with the Rhodes family in the ring with the big trophy, which was a nice moment. It was nice to see Cody and Dustin and the rest of Dusty's family in there celebrating and presenting the trophy and everything. So that was just a nice little moment. And nothing much else to say other than that. But overall, good tournament. Enjoyed it, and it was fun. Definitely a good part of the show. One of the major themes of this particular takeover. And that's actually another one of the things I liked about this takeover, is that it looked and felt different from all the other ones, because the main event was a women's match, and the bulk of the show was taken up by a tag team tournament, which no other takeover special had done before. So this one instantly has an identity separate from all the other ones. All the other ones kind of had this pattern. You'd have your world title main event, you'd have a big women's match, you'd have a tag match on the undercard, you'd have one big grudge match. It was kind of this very compartmentalized style cards. Not that that was a bad thing. Their shows were great. They haven't put on a bad one yet. Not even a below average one or even an average one yet. But seeing a different format and a different style and different presentation was definitely a breath of fresh air and made this one stand out a little bit more. But moving right along. We had one other women's match on the undercard. It was Dana Brooke taking on the debuting Asuka, formerly Kana, new NXT signee. She came in, made her debut, and she looked damn good. Props to Dana Brooke for selling for her and setting up all the moves for her and making her look like $1 million. Asuka, like right off the bat, has this infectious charisma that really made her likable, and all of her, the flipping arm bar and all these really cool moves that she threw out there. When she starts having like real matches, and this was more of like a showcase, almost not quite a squash match, but kind of like in that same vein where it was really just meant as an introduction. But when she starts having like real matches, maybe gets a title shot down the road, I think she's going to bring a completely different flavor to everything, and I think it's going to be great. So overall, really strong debut and good stuff. The other kind of undercard match was Tyler Breeze taking on Apollo Crews. And once again, Tyler Breeze shines in these TakeOver specials. He has a really, really good match. I said it before, I think Tyler's one of the best guys they have. He's not always presented like it, but he's more of a complete package than most of the guys in NXT right now. And he once again shined and looked very, very good. I thought the chemistry between the two was very good. Crews being this athletic, genetic freak, but Tyler was this wily, kind of, crafty bad guy that was able to outsmart him. Like the way he, again, this is the benefit of squash matches on TV. Apollo Crews' finisher on TV has been the Gorilla Press Slam into the standing moonsault for the finish. And that's what he's been using as his finisher. Tyler's way of getting out of that was really cool, clever, and different, and it forced Apollo to come up with a new finisher for the match, was just a sick power bomb that looked nasty, and again, a power bomb that gets a finish, yay! And overall, it was a very good match. It was actually better than I expected. I didn't know how much time they were going to give these guys. I thought maybe Tyler was just going to get fed to the wolves, and it was just going to be kind of like what the Asuka Dana Brooke match was, where it's just Tyler getting kind of served on a platter. But no, it was actually a very good kind of back and forth match. I was pleasantly surprised, and not by the abilities of both men, but I just assumed that Crews was going to just steamroll all over him, and the fact that they let them go out there and have this really good showcase match was really good. Tyler lost again, which, poor him. He never wins at these TakeOver specials. It's really sad, but Tyler, I mean, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and I guess as long as he keeps working, I guess the WWE recognizes that, or else they would, stop using him. He's not like Solomon Crow, who really hasn't worked out. He's one of the few NXT guys that's just kind of like, oh, he's a hacker, but there's not much of a character beyond that. And I don't know if that's Crow's fault, I don't know if that's the booking's fault or whatever, but he just has not clicked in NXT. He's one of the few guys who hasn't. So they may need to repackage him or something. But I thought Tyler and Crews had a very good match. It was very good. But that leads me on to the main event. Bayley taking on Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's Championship in a 30-minute Iron Man match. Superb match. Very, very, very good main event. There was a lot of pressure put on them. The first match they had was excellent, very good. They were given the main event spotlight as a reward for how good their first match was. And when I say first match, I mean, their first title match. But they had wrestled each other several times before. But, a lot of high stakes. They were given the main event spot. They were being given a 30-minute time limit to work an Iron Man match. No other woman in WWE has ever done that before. High pressure, and I thought both girls came out and absolutely earned that main event spot. This was the main event of the show, without question, and it was an absolutely outstanding match. A couple of clunky spots here and there sprinkled out, but I didn't really mind because the overall story was great, and I'm going to elaborate on this more when I talk about the MSG special, but this is what I like to see out of rematches. I like to see callbacks to the previous match to show that they learned from the previous match and, different... they learned from the previous match and they tried to do different things. This is probably a bad example because technically the sequel didn't wasn't a rematch. But when you look at Karate Kid Part 2, the original ones I'm talking about, like the original 80s Ralph Macchio Karate Kid movies, when you look at Karate Kid Part 2 and you look at you go back and look at the first one, they're two completely different fights. They're two completely different situations. And granted, he had different opponents, but bear with me. In the first fight, he wins with the crane kick. I don't think I'm spoiling anything because it's one of the most famous movie endings of the time period, so I'm pretty sure everybody knows. And that's how Daniel wins the fight over Johnny in that one. So in the second one, he uses the crane kick again, but it doesn't work when he fights Chosen in the big final. Plus, it was a different setting, different circumstances, and everything like that. And, probably not the best example because it's not a rematch, but again, it took the crane kick from the first movie, which we expect him to use, and it doesn't work next time, so Daniel has to, try something different. And it changes the complexion of the story being told. And there was a lot of that going on here in this match where you saw a bunch of callbacks to the Brooklyn match, but it wasn't just carbon copy repeat spots like a lot of John Cena's matches where if he has a rematch and works with the same guy 3 or 4 times, those matches are going to look identical. Look at the Rusev match. Well, not the Rusev matches because they gimmicked the holy hell out of them. But look at the Kevin Owens matches. Look at the Seth Rollins matches. Look at those. And it's just, look at the Randy Orton matches. You're just getting the same matches over and over and over again. Here, you saw callbacks to the Brooklyn show, but they changed it. Like, one of the big spots of the Brooklyn match was Sasha doing that over-the-top rope flip, so you thought she was going to do it again. Instead, she did a suicide dive, and this time Bayley caught her and hit the belly to Bayley outside the ring. They went for the reverse Hurricane Rana again, but Sasha rolled out of it and then reversed and hit her own version of the belly to Bayley, and then used it to set up the bank statement. What else did they do? I'm trying to think. There were a couple, but it was the same basic story was intact, where Sasha is just so mean and so nasty, and Bayley is just this lovable babyface underdog that the whole story just worked beautifully. And I have to say, when Sasha made Izzy cry, the Bayley superfan, I thought it was really sad, but at the same time it made the match that much better. It added so much flavor to the match that happened. It's just it's kind of like Mick Foley taking the 12 chair shots at the Royal Rumble, and it made his kids cry and everything, but it did make that match so much better. It made that story so much more dramatic that they did that. So I guess if it makes the story better, and I'm an asshole, so okay, I'm an asshole, but it did make for a much better story to do that. But I just thought both girls, they paced the match really well. I mean, 30 minutes is not an easy time limit to work, and not an easy match to hold the audience's attention for the entire time, and I thought they did it quite well. I thought it was overall very good. And again, going back to what I said about Balor with his leg injury and how it played no role in the finals and how that was disappointing, here you saw a reversal of the Brooklyn match where in the Brooklyn match, Bayley saw her hand get beat up royally. Sasha just attacked it like a rabid dog. Here, Bayley did that to Sasha as payback, obviously. And it really paid off at the end of the match. And thank God the announcers caught it. And that's another thing. The NXT announcers, they're not perfect. They're not great. But they are so much better than the Raw team. I think it was Corey Graves that made the call. When it was getting down to the end, they were both tied, and Sasha locked in the bank statement, and Corey made the call. She can't fully lock on the hold because her hands hurt, so she can't fully grasp her hands, and she can't get the full impact of the hold in, and that's how Bayley was able to survive. And just little nuances makes the story better. I'm just saying. I love that little stuff. That's what makes matches work. And and somebody else brought this up. Somebody I was talking to. I don't know if this was deliberate. If it was, it's a very nice touch. But at the end, when Bayley locks in the Rings of Saturn, which I kind of marked out for, I was like, yeah, the Rings of Saturn. I love it. Perry Saturn. I was a Perry Saturn fan back in the day, so I kind of marked out for the hold. But Bayley locks it in, and Sasha taps out with 3 seconds left. or she gives up with 3 seconds left or whatever. In an earlier promo, Sasha had said that Bayley was only better than me for 3 seconds. So now, when Bayley got the win with 3 seconds left, she was better than Sasha for 3 seconds. And I don't know if that was deliberate. Somebody else caught that and brought that to my attention. I don't know if that was deliberate, but if it is, nice touch. If it wasn't deliberate, it's a nice happy accident. Because again, it's just a nice little sugar on top of what was overall a very well told story. And again, the girls did fantastic. Bayley and Sasha tore the house down again. I think I liked their Brooklyn match a little bit more because you couldn't quite beat the atmosphere. They were out at Full Sail. It was a different environment. And Bayley won her first title, and you just wanted her to win so bad that it was so satisfying to watch her win. But this match was definitely a worthy sequel. It's a different match entirely, so I could watch both matches back to back and feel like I'm getting a different experience both times. And it worked out beautifully, and I thought both girls did a wonderful job. Triple H and Stephanie presenting them with flowers after the match. It was different, I guess. It was, you don't normally see that, but both girls definitely deserve to be congratulated. They did an awesome job, and it blows most matches in general away. I mean, Bayley and Sasha, the last 2 matches are better than most of the matches you'll see out there these days, man or woman. It doesn't matter. And it was a worthwhile main event and great end to another great takeover special. They did it again. Oh shucks, NXT, you and your high quality shows. Darn it. And so Wednesday night, I was treated to an NXT Takeover special that was so great and so amazing, I was almost too excited to sleep. It was just one of those shows that makes you happy to be a wrestling fan. It's just when I see shows like that, it's like that reminds me of why I love this shit and why I'm a fan of the art form. A few days earlier, on Saturday night, I was treated to a show that drove me to just the doldrums. I was just bored out of my fucking skull, and that was another WWE Network special. It was their MSG portion of the Brock Go to Hell tour. And it's funny because I've been watching my horror movies lately because it's October and it's time to get ready for Halloween. And I watched Misery last night, and watching that movie again, I realized that when I talk about the MSG show, I'm going to sound a lot like Annie Wilkes, so I apologize for that. There's going to be a lot more swearing. I'm not going to say cock-a-doodie or anything like that, but it is very much along the same lines. But it is what it is. WWE drives me nuts sometimes. I love them when they put on NXT, but I hate them when they do literally everything else. But, this show was just... Okay, if you have not seen the MSG special and you want to know whether or not you should check it out, I will ask these questions. Have you been watching Raw lately? Did you watch, I guess, any 2 of the last 3 pay-per-views, especially Night of Champions? Have you watched any of the 24 Big Show Brock Lesnar matches in the past? If you have answered yes to these questions, you have already seen this show. Do not waste your time. This show was just the most repetitive, boring, it was like, I feel like, again, to bring it back to movies, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies. It's a great, fantastic movie. It's very deep and personal. It's also a bit of a feel-good story by the end of it anyway. And I just love that movie. I think Bill Murray's performance in it is fantastic. But when I watch modern-day WWE, I really do understand the hell that Phil Connors went through to live through the exact same day over and over and over again, and having everybody around him not realize that the day is repeating has got to be the most frustrating thing on the planet. Because watching the WWE, I feel like I'm watching the same thing over and over and over again, and the WWE is completely unaware that they're doing it. It's like, it is a Groundhog Day booking. It is just the most bizarre thing. It's times like this I get nostalgic for 1995. You can make fun of the Dungeon of Doom all you want. At least it was an evolving story. It was stupid. It was WrestleCrap worthy. It was so much fun to make fun of, but at least it was an evolving story where one thing happens and it changes things. Alright, so the big leader guy, whatever his name was, he recruits Kevin Sullivan, and in turn Kevin Sullivan recruits guys to join this weirdo anti-Hulk Hogan cult. Then they bring on the Giant, who's Andre the Giant's son, and he wants to get revenge on Hulk Hogan for his dad, and then it eventually leads to Hulk Hogan getting trapped in the Dungeon of Doom, and all this stupid shit that went on there. At least it was an evolving story. I will give it that much credit. 1995 WWE. If you watch it, the feuds aren't good, the characters aren't good, but at least there's build-up. At least WrestleMania 11 is dog shit, but at least every match on that, well, not every match, but most of the big high grudge matches on that card had been built up for months, and it was like a cause and effect. We got to get to this point, and then we do the payoff. There was like basic storytelling mechanics at play here back in 1995, 20 years ago. That is not going on now. They just repeat the same shit over and over again until you're sick of seeing it. And it's just the most repetitive garbage, and it just drives me fucking crazy. First match on the show was they thankfully took the two dull matches that I didn't want to see, and they combined it into a tag match. Dolph Ziggler and Randy Orton versus Rusev and Sheamus. I don't know why they did what they did, making it a tag match, but I don't care. It's like, fine, two birds with one stone, although it led to more matches being added, which I'll cover that in a second. But it was pretty much just a standard tag match between four guys that I've seen wrestle each other 4,000 billion times, and it didn't change the story. It didn't change anything going on with Ziggler and Rusev. It feels like Ziggler and Rusev is done now. There's no payoff, I guess. I don't know. Randy Orton and Sheamus, I have no idea what's going on there anymore. I just don't care. I just don't care. It's like the ability to care got brutally beaten out of me. But anyway, so that happened. I don't even, you know what, fuck it, I don't even remember who won. Honest to God, I do not remember who won the tag match. Oh well, doesn't matter. The match didn't amount to anything anyway, so it's not like it changed the story or, led to anything, so fine, whatever. Then, for those of you who saw my preview video, you may remember that I made the joke that there were so many rematches on this show that I was just like, what? They didn't have room for Adrian Neville and Stardust? What? They didn't have enough room for Team PCB versus the Bellas? I'll be goddamned if they didn't add both of those matches to the card. And the Divas match especially made me angry, but we'll cover that in a bit. Adrian Neville and Stardust. Here's the problem, and this is the Groundhog Day booking thing. These two guys have been feuding since before SummerSlam, and the story is going nowhere. What's the fucking story? They just wrestle each other every week. It's just, their motivations are vague at best. Stephen Amell's no longer there, so the stakes are lowered, if anything. If anything, SummerSlam should have been the end of the feud, but it's not. Okay, fine, whatever. They threw the Lucha Dragons and the Ascension in there for God knows what reason. They had 3 6-man tag matches that amounted to nothing. It just feels like these guys are just trading wins back and forth, and I have to ask myself, who cares who wins? If Neville wins, what happens? He wrestles Stardust next week. If Stardust wins, what happens? He wrestles Neville next week. This story is such a directionless mess. And again, the Groundhog Day thing is just the same thing over and over and over again. The only thing that really changes is the outcome, but the outcome doesn't matter, so who cares? It just resets the next day anyway. It's infuriating, and it's impossible to care at this point. Fucking do a story. This isn't a story. It's just repeating yourself over and over again. And then we get, speaking of lack of character development, we get into Team PCB versus Team Bella, and I almost blew a gasket when I saw this because I applauded them a few weeks ago when they had Paige, just verbally run down Charlotte and Becky and just, basically, I thought, stupid me, break up Team PCB. And I thought it was great. It was like, finally, the Divas Revolution is getting some kind of character development. Finally, the story's moving forward. The next week, Paige is tagging with Charlotte and Becky. Okay, why are they still tagging? Because after that promo the week before, I would think that they wouldn't be a team anymore. There has to be a cause and effect here. It's like, all right, this happened, so that leads to this. You can't just, keep doing the same thing without changing anything. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me. If they had explained that Like, let's say Stephanie McMahon comes out and says, well, I'm sorry that y'all are having these issues, but y'all are contractually, I don't know why I'm having Stephanie say y'all, but whatever. Y'all are contractually obligated to perform these 6-woman tag matches. I booked them in advance, although I don't think anybody would buy that because the way Raw is booked, it seems like the shows are just booked, the matches are just booked on the fly willy-nilly anyway, so most of the time, so they probably wouldn't buy that matches are booked weeks in advance, but if they wanted to provide that explanation, that would be fine, and it would lead to the interesting dynamic of how the teammates are going to work together. But they went out there for the 6-woman tag and acted as if nothing happened, and then they basically turned Paige heel again by having her walk out on her team, and it's like, okay, you had her turn heel twice. Did Charlotte and Becky not know that was going to happen? I mean, I would have expected it at that point because, Paige is a bitch now. And that was the thing. And then we get to the MSG special, and they're still tagging together, and it's like, did Raw not happen? Did I not miss? Did you all get amnesia? He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car. Anyway, sorry. It's just, I saw this and I'm like, wait a minute, did Monday night not happen? And some people have used the excuse, it's like, oh, you're taking it too seriously, this is just a house show. First of all, bullshit, it's not a house show, it's a network special, because they're airing it, so by default, it's not, by definition, it's not a house show. A house show is a non-televised event. This was presented to the television or the network audience or whatever, so it's not a house show. And even if it was, there were times back in my day, I remember going to an event in 1992 where Shawn Michaels, I wasn't at the TV taping where this happened, but on TV I saw Shawn Michaels throw Marty Jannetty through a window, and then at the house show I went to, I think it must have been like a week later, Shawn Michaels came out with his new Sexy Boy gimmick. He didn't even have the Sexy Boy music yet, but he had Sherry with him and everything, and I was like, okay, cool. So the storyline developments affected what happened at the house show, so that's not an excuse. And the fact that Team PCB is still tagging at this point is just infuriating to me. And then they had Paige basically turn heel again by sneaking in a blind tag and breaking up the momentum of her team. So then finally Charlotte and Becky walk out on her, which, great, thank you. And it looks like now they're moving forward. They're not tagging together anymore. And they basically replaced Paige with Natalia for Team PCB, which, okay, that's great. That's all well and good. But this whole, it's kind of like, probably a worst example of it was when Adam Rose turned heel 47 weeks in a row and beat up the Bunny every week. And it was just like, so is he a heel yet or not? Like, what's going on here? And, Stardust and Stardust and Goldust, sorry. They must have broken up like 4 times. And I'm like, wait a minute, how many times does Stardust need to turn heel here? I mean, come on, guys, let's... Fuck. God damn it. That's not character development. It's just doing the same thing over and over fucking again. I sound like a broken record, but they made me into a broken record. I'm sorry. It's just a mess. The only match on the show that did not bother me and I actually quite enjoyed was Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title. They made a big deal on the show of it being the date of Chris Jericho's 25th anniversary in the business. That was very cool. Really like that. Really heightened the importance of the match a little bit. It's a fresh match. I've never seen the two work together before. I thought the match was very good. Nice back and forth. A lot of cool counters. You don't see Jericho often, so his stuff seems a little bit fresher. And overall, it was just a good match. And Kevin Owens got the win, which was the right call. So, easy peasy, everything worked out well, and I was happy. It was the only match on the show that didn't bug me, so cool. That was good. Then we get the tag title match. It was the New Day versus I keep calling them Team 3D, the Dudley Boys. Sorry about that. So that was the tag title match, and you want to talk about a sheer, just blatant showcase of booking amnesia. Did you see Night of Champions? If you did, I'm sorry to break this to you, New Day and I almost did it again, fucking the Dudley Boys went out there and had the exact same goddamn match that they had at Night of Champions, right down to the finish. Xavier Woods jumps in, causes a DQ, New Day tries to put Dudley's through a table post-match, Dudley's break out of it, 3D somebody through a table, whippity whoopity woo, wubba lubba dub dub, and that was your match, and it was exactly the same. I was absolutely amazed. I'm like, all right, I'm not imagining this. They had the same exact match, no changes, no development, and this is where I mean story development needs to take place. All right, the previous match ended in a DQ with New Day saving their titles that way. Okay. Down the road, you would think they would build up to some kind of a no DQ championship match to where, the New Day won't be able to sneak away, or build up to a match where if they get DQ'd, they lose the titles. Something, the way the match at Night of Champions ended needs to develop and alter how the rematch goes. That didn't happen here, and even if you're not gonna fully do the title change or the build-up, because I'm fully aware that Dudley's are probably going to win the tag titles. I wouldn't be surprised anyway. But, okay, if you're going to do the same match here, do a count-out. Do that. Do the other possibility. Just do something fucking different. Just so I'm not feel like I'm watching the same goddamn match. But that's what they did. They just gave us the same goddamn match. So, whatever. So that happened, and the same fucking match. Same fucking match. Speaking of same fucking match, Brock Lesnar versus Big Show. Again, have you watched a Big Show Brock Lesnar match in the past? This was, it was a Brock Lesnar Big Show match. It was exactly that. They sought out to have a Big Show Brock Lesnar match, and they achieved having a Brock Lesnar Big Show match. You got to see Brock Lesnar suplex Big Show all over the place. You got to see Brock deliver the F5, which he does every single time he faces Big Show, and that's it. And that's exactly what you got. Big Show will throw him around a little bit for a while, but Lesnar will come back, hit a bunch of suplexes, and then he'll F5 Big Show, and we kiss, we dance, we smoosh, we all go home happy, whatever. Fuck, or I don't go home happy, I go home bored out of my skull. I've seen this fucking match 47 goddamn times. I just don't care anymore. And the fact that the announcers were acting like, oh my god, I can't believe Brock Lesnar F5 the Big Show. And I'm like, he does it every single goddamn time they face each other, including the last time they faced each other less than 2 years ago. Do you not have a memory of your own shit? It's just, god damn it. It's so frustrating. So yeah, it's just the same old shit over and over again, and so that match happened. I would have rather they just picked another opponent for Brock. There was no way they could do anything different between these two, so why even do the match again? I don't know. Wasted another Brock appearance. It's because Brock is a special appearance guy. He's a legitimate attraction. Put him in situations that are interesting and that we haven't seen before, so it'll be even cooler. Because again, I'll point it out again. I can watch a lot of Brock and Big Show's matches on the WWE Network. That thing that you can buy for $9.99. I can watch a bunch of those matches. So I don't really need to watch an MSG show to watch a Brock Lesnar Big Show match, because your fucking pay-per-view archives are pretty thorough. So, or at least thorough enough to give me all of their pay-per-view encounters from 2002 and 2003. So, whatever. That match was a whatever. And then we got Seth Rollins versus John Cena in the goddamn steel cage. Yada, yada, yada. Cena wins, LOL. They repeated the same spots over and over again. That goddamn superplex into the Falcon Arrow spot that never wins the match. The announcers put it over like they've never seen it before, even though Seth does it every single goddamn match that they have. I don't know what to say anymore. It's just, it was the same fucking match that we've seen a dozen times from these two, and I'm sick of seeing it at this point. And if Cena was just gonna beat him again, why do the match? There's no reason for Cena to win. What? This is the third time in a row he's beaten Seth. What's the point? And Seth loses all the time now. Somebody threw a stat at me that out of his last 16 matches, Seth has won one of them, and that was the match over Sting. It's just, what the fuck? It's just, seriously, what's the point? I don't get it. I just don't understand why. Cena won the last two. I'm not even forget the fact that I hate the Cena character and him going over just annoys me. The fact that you had to have the same match 4 times in a row, counting the SummerSlam match, and you had to have the same result 3 times in a row. Do you not get bored when you book this shit? I don't fucking know. I just don't fucking know anymore. And this match just left me just bored and frustrated. And of course, because you have to get this every week on Raw now, Corporate Kane is around. He plays nicey nice to Seth, even though there's no reason for him to play nicey nice to Seth, because Seth is supposedly a douchebag, even though half the time I feel sorry for him because he just it's the Wile E. Coyote syndrome. He just gets victimized all the time, so it's hard for me to hate him. Corporate Kane shows up. He's all nicey nice to Seth, and then he goes backstage. Demon Kane comes out, beats the crap out of Seth. This has been the same goddamn thing. I've said the word goddamn so many times. Fuck you, WWE. You've made me repetitive. Fuck. I'm getting. I mean, that's basically been Raw every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks, where you get that same story being told over and over and over again. In the last 5 or 6 weeks, I have watched less and less and less of Monday Night Raw, to the point that I think I'm barely watching 30 to 40 minutes of the show, if that. There's other things to watch on Monday night. You got football, Big Bang Theory, even though Big Bang Theory is not as good as it used to be. You got Gotham. Gotham's not even... That show's not even that great. I'll watch Gotham over fucking Raw any day of the week. It's just... it's so just awful and mind-numbing. And Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, they wrestle each other every week in tag matches and singles matches. And, they've got a Hell in a Cell match coming up. Is this the end? You promise? You'll never do it again after this? I hope so, because I don't want to see it again. I'm kind of done with this. We're done. There's a difference between booking a 5-month feud and doing the same match every single week with minimal changes in between. It's just, there comes a point where you're just repeating yourself and it's boring, and that's where that feud is gone. So the MSG special, it was the same old shit, basically. Raw has been the same old shit, and it's just a mess. And again, I go back to NXT. When you look at the two, I just don't know how NXT is under the same WWE brand. I don't fathom it. I don't understand it. I just don't understand how NXT can be as good as it is, and the main WWE show is as shitty as it is. It's really remarkable. Well, I guess now I got to talk about TNA. They had Bound for Glory last Sunday, their biggest pay-per-view of the year. And I previewed it last week, and overall I thought the show, I did watch it, I thought the show was, that's how I saw it. It was a meh show. It was probably as good a show as TNA could put on at this point, given the state of things, but overall it's just, I just shrugged my shoulders at it. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't that great either. You had an Ultimate X match involving 4 ill-defined characters, especially the challengers. And it was just a spot fest. Take it or leave it. You had a gauntlet match where the countdown clock wasn't synced up properly at times, and overall they threw out a couple of old guys for pops and did a couple things. Tyrus ended up winning. The Funkasaurus is now in line for a title shot, which, sure. Again, it was take it or leave it, whatever. It was kind of a lesser version of the Royal Rumble, although given the last few years, the Royal Rumble has become a lesser version of the Royal Rumble, but whatever, I won't go there. The tag title match was, again, I've already seen the match on Impact, so it didn't really do much difference to do it again here. They went into that tornado tag problem that I have with modern day tag matches. It wasn't terrible, it was just there. It was fine. Bobby Roode and Bobby Lashley for the King of the Mountain title was probably the best match on the show. Solid. It was pretty solid. A lot of counters and power moves and all sorts of things. It was what it was. But like I said, it was probably the best match on the show. What else? Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong. Again, it was kind of like TNA, just reliving past glories. It was a good match, but it was nowhere near as good as their previous matches, so it just kind of felt like weak sauce, like a weak sauce revisiting of something that was super cool years ago. It was one of the better matches on the show, but it wasn't much to write home about either. You had Kurt Angle versus Eric Young, which was odd, where they stopped the match midway. They announced the match was no DQ, and then Kurt Angle came out and made the match no DQ, even though it was already no DQ. So, okay. I don't know if Christie just flubbed up the announcement and wasn't supposed to say that or whatever. I don't know, but shit happens. The match was just weird. It was just a weird match. I wasn't really that into it, but whatever. Kurt Angle got the win. Fine. And then you had the main event. It was EC3 defending the world title against Drew Galloway and Matt Hardy in a triple threat with Jeff Hardy as special guest referee. Again, solid match overall. Matt Hardy won the title, which I was kind of like, I kind of rolled my eyes at. I was like, of course that happened. Matt Hardy is now the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And it was kind of, I guess they just wanted to give the North Carolina crowd a feel-good moment on the way out. Ethan Carter... It's the best thing TNA has. I would have rather run with him as champion, but those are my feelings coming out of the pay-per-view. In the days that followed, however, there was an ongoing storyline of headlines that TNA was creating surrounding the world title situation where Ethan Carter had gotten with his lawyers and forced an injunction against TNA and was staging a formal protest. That Jeff Hardy had screwed him out of the title and that there was a conspiracy to get the title off of him. And it kind of was like, all right, that actually kind of makes sense that he would feel that way and that somebody would do this. I'm surprised this hasn't been done before in wrestling. Actually, you know what it has? The triple header match from 1995, Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Yokozuna and Owen Hart for all the belts. But Owen Hart didn't make it that night, so Bulldog was his replacement. And then Owen Hart did a run-in during the match, and he got pinned, so it was ultimately determined that Shawn Michaels and Diesel's victory was null and void. It basically made an entire pay-per-view main event pointless, but at least that part of it, the reaction of the heels to the main event outcome actually made sense. So yeah, that actually kind of makes sense that he would do that. And then Matt Hardy vacates the TNA title so that the whole litigation process doesn't hold up the company, and it's like, okay, that's weird. Kind of makes the Bound for Glory outcome pointless, but at the same time, it presents the possibility for future storyline development. So it's like, okay, I kind of like that the storyline is developing while the show's off the air, and it makes it look like stuff is happening, and then we'll get caught up on it on the weekly show on Impact. And then we got another development where the World Title Series is being kicked off, where it'll be a tournament with 32 participants, and it's formatted very similarly for all you soccer fans out there. It's formatted not similarly; it's exactly like the World Cup, and the way it's formatted. 32 participants, 8 groups of 4, and the groups of 4 will each face each other in a round-robin style series of matches, and the 2 top point getters in each group will move on to a 16-competitor tournament, and then the winner of that tournament will be the ultimate champion. Sounds complicated, but it's really not that complicated in execution, assuming TNA doesn't do anything to fuck with it. But which I don't think they have because they already taped it. But and that's where I'm going to get into the criticism, because I think I'm like, all right, I kind of dig the storyline development. I'm like, all right, that's interesting. And TNA is actually generating headlines and getting people talking, which they haven't done that in forever, so I was like, okay, that's interesting. I kind of like that. Some people made fun of them for having knockouts in the tournament. There's a knockouts group. It's Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, Brooke, and Madison Rayne. And the 2 top point getters in that bracket are going to move on to the 16-person tournament. Some people have made fun of that. It's like, oh, TNA, LOL. And I'm like, well, hey, hold on. Lucha Underground does it, and they made it work. I mean, one of the best moments they created this year was Ivelisse with her team winning the trios titles. So there's that. Sexy Star did quite well for herself and worked well with the men. So what's wrong with having the women in the world title tournament? I mean, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, they could probably do it in a believable way. You just saw 2 women main event a TakeOver special. They did great. And as far as, like, believable world champions, if you're going to tell me that, like, 55-year-old Sting can go out there and work with somebody like Seth Rollins and make that believable. And the funny thing about Sting is that, if you put somebody his age up against somebody like Rollins, all Rollins would have to do in a believable contest is, kind of just make him gas himself out and, out quick him and make him run around the ring and then just beat him. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard. But, all right, it's fictional, it's a work, so you're asking me to buy these things. If you're asking me to buy that old guys can hang with young guys, if you're asking me to believe that Rey Mysterio can be World Heavyweight Champion, then why can't Gail Kim and Awesome Kong be World Heavyweight Champion? So when I heard people making fun of TNA for that, I kind of looked at it, it's like, okay guys, your sexism is showing a little bit, be careful with that. I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with that aspect of it. My biggest problem with the tournament, and I found this out, they've already taped the tournament. There was a taping back in July, I think it was, where they taped 57 matches or something ridiculous like that. And everybody wonders, what the hell are all these matches for? Now you know what all these matches are for. They had taped the World Title Series tournament, so they knew months in advance that they were going to do this to make up for the fact that there were no new TV tapings lined up in the near future. So it's okay. That's a little cheap, but whatever. So it's actually not a bad idea, not a bad concept. And even watching Impact this week, the format itself is not that bad. It's just that the fact that everything's already been taped kind of takes some of the speciality out of it. I'm not even talking about it was taped a week ago. It was taped 3 months ago. Austin Aries is in the tournament, so it's okay. And granted, the match he had with EC3 was really good. It's just it kind of takes a lot of the air out of the tires when everything was taped months in advance. And Lucha Underground does that too, but Lucha Underground also does a lot of post work where I don't know all the storyline developments because they do all those cinematic cutscenes that they do. So there's a lot of that going on as well. So even if I read a taping spoiler for Lucha Underground, which I don't, I'm not going to have the full show spoiled for me. But here it's I'm going to have the whole show spoiled for me. So, I kind of, interesting idea, but it turns out it was just a cheap way to get around not having TV tapings. It's okay, so that's a shame, because it was actually looking interesting for a second. For a second, it was oh my god, TNA's flipped their minds, but this is almost kind of brilliant too. So, I guess you'll have this tournament going on for the next few weeks. EC3 will probably win it if I had to guess. Maybe Drew Galloway might. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't read the spoiler, so I don't know who won, but it is what it is. At least they kind of sort of got attention with it, I guess. I guess I'll give him credit for that. And at least I do like the concept of the storyline evolving immediately after the pay-per-view, and that there's updates that we can get caught up on the TV show. So I did like that part of it. But if this were a fresh set of shows, it would be a lot better. It would come off a lot better and probably give TNA a lot more excitement and a nice shot in the arm. But yeah, as is, whatever. But that is what it is. Now, one last thing I wanted to cover before I signed off here. It has nothing to do with wrestling, so if you only wanted to hear me talk about wrestling stuff, you can turn the video off now because there's nothing left about that. But if you've watched any of my previous videos, or some of my non-wrestling centric videos, I may have mentioned at some point that I am a Muppets fan. I am a Jim Henson fan. He grew up around my hometown, actually, and went to the University of Maryland, so he's a bit of a folk hero around these parts, and I grew up just loving the Muppets, and I loved his work. I loved Fraggle Rock. I loved Sesame Street as a kid. I loved his movies, Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, and the Ninja Turtles movie was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. His Creature Shop created the Ninja Turtles for the film, as well as Splinter. And I've always had a lot of appreciation for Jim Henson's work and his creativity and his comedy and song and dances and he can make you cry, laugh, do everything in between. He was just great and had a very creative mind. So I love the Muppets. The Muppets got a new show on ABC. It's airing in primetime on Tuesday nights. We're 3 episodes into the show, and the reactions I'm hearing to this show are very negative, and they seem to all center around the same complaint. Two complaints in particular. One, there's adult humor, and the Muppets aren't supposed to do adult humor. Oh my god, that's shameful. Jim Henson would be rolling over in his grave. They're not supposed to do adult humor. And 2, Kermit's an asshole. And Kermit's not supposed to be an asshole. He's supposed to be all lovable and sweet and everything in between. Alright. As a lifelong Muppets fan, I can truthfully say that I enjoy the show quite a bit. I think there's a lot of potential with the show. It's more of a mockumentary format, kind of like The Office or Parks and Rec, and that format is a little tired at this point, but it's at the end of the day, it's the Muppets doing a new show, so I kind of overlook that, and I'm just having fun with what I'm seeing. And those complaints in particular really don't make sense to me. They really, really don't. First of all, the Muppets are doing adult humor. It's really not that bad. Some of the complaints I've heard make it sound like it's Robot Chicken or South Park or Archer or Rick and Morty or something along those lines. It's not even remotely close. It is like, it's pretty tame, I think. And the adult humor, Kermit said hell at one point, and people like flip their shit at that, and I'm like, come on guys, it's not that big a deal. They've made drug references, but very kind of slight drug references. Not they've made sexual innuendos, but not so they're not saying like dick and balls and penis and shit and fuck and all this other stuff. It's just very kind of like, go over the kids' heads type of jokes. So I really don't. The adult humor is not bothering me at all, because it's nowhere near as bad as other shows. And if you go back and you look at the Muppets' history, they don't do adult humor. Really? Did you watch the original Muppet Show? Because the original pilot, the pitch for the original Muppet Show, was called Sex and Violence. That was the original title to the first pilot of the Muppet Show. A lot of adults liked the Muppets as kids. Let me rephrase that. A lot of adults liked the Muppets back in the day, back in the 70s when it first came about. And, it was a show that adults and kids could watch. But as a fan and having watched every single episode of the original Muppet Show, I remember jokes about Kermit the Frog making, references to him and Miss Piggy having bouncing baby figs. A frog and a pig, they make a fig. I remember Piggy referencing herself as a sex goddess in one episode. I remember, they did an episode where Alice Cooper was the guest host, and he tried to get Gonzo and Kermit to sell his soul to the devil, or sell their souls to the devil. That was a thing they did on the show once. So the original Muppet Show was not this squeaky clean thing, and a lot of people seem to think that it was. The movies, I remember there was go back and watch the original Muppet movie, which is G-rated, by the way. There was a drug reference with Zoot, one of the band members of the Electric Mayhem. It's very small and it's very quick and you miss it, but I think there was like a drug reference in there somewhere with Zoot. And this is the original Muppet movie, which Jim Henson had a hand in. In The Great Muppet Caper, during one of the songs, hell is in one of the lyrics of the Happiness Hotel song, and again, Jim Henson had a hand in that song. You get to Muppet Treasure Island in the mid-90s, and Long John Silver, played by Tim Curry, goes on a long rant about damning people to hell and all this other stuff, and ripping pages out of the Bible, and which is, Treasure Island, and they were just saying true to the source material, but that was more adult-centric. So, and if you want to go way back, in the first season of Saturday Night Live, Jim Henson had Muppet sketches on the show. It wasn't the Muppets that we know. It wasn't Kermit and Piggy and Gonzo and Fozzie and all of those guys, but it was a whole different set of characters, the Mighty Favog and all that other stuff. But they did segments where the puppets used sex toys and all sorts of other weird crap. So, they were having affairs and cheating on their spouses and all this other weird crap. So, Jim Henson dabbled in adult material in his day. This whole, Jim Henson would be rolling over in his grave if he could see this. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. Jim Henson was a creative genius and was always looking to try and find new things to do. He probably would have eventually done a show like this at some point if he had survived and not passed away as he left us. Here's how much I love Jim Henson. He could have died at 200 years old and we still would have lost him too soon. I love that man and his work. So I'm very passionate about Jim Henson and just love that man. He's one of my entertainment heroes. It's like when I was a kid, it was him, Mel Blanc, and Ray Harryhausen. Those were my three entertainment heroes. And Yeah, but I don't think he'd be rolling over in his grave. I think he'd be amazed at, he'd always be trying to find new things to do. And I don't know if he would have, maybe he would have. I don't know if he would have created a show like this, but he would have always been trying to find new things to do with the Muppets. He wouldn't have just been doing the same thing over and over again. So there's that. And the whole Kermit being an asshole thing, I think Kermit, we see Kermit as this happy-go-lucky, feel-good, emotional guy, mostly in the movies. In the movies, he's typically the protagonist and has something to strive for and achieve, and has to push people to be positive and believe in yourself and all those other stuff because he's the protagonist of the story. In the original Muppet Show, Kermit is a stressed-out, only sane person in a room full of crazies, and that stress leads to him being kind of an angry, bitter person. This was all stuff that was said in the original Muppet Show. Kermit fired Miss Piggy in one episode, and the guest star was Loretta Swit. It's actually one of my favorite episodes because it's just the whole episode is just Piggy and Kermit being nasty to each other, and it's hilarious. And that's the other thing. I think anger can be really funny if you do it right, and typically the Muppets do it right. But they did a bit where Kermit fires Piggy, and Loretta Swit's like, Kermit, you can't throw Miss Piggy out in the street. He's like, not without a forklift, I can't. And it's like, wow, dude, that is nasty, but it was funny. So, Kermit, in this new show, Kermit is the lead producer on Miss Piggy's up late talk show. She runs a late night talk show, and Kermit's the producer. So he's the one that's got to deal with Miss Piggy's highly demanding personality while also dealing with this room full of crazies and get this show put together every night. So, we're back to having stressed out, oh my god, my life is a bacon-wrapped hell, as he put it in the show. That version of Kermit, and I kind of like it because it's a revisit to the old Muppet Show where he was just always stressed out, always like, oh my god, how are we going to get this show put on? This is crazy, this is crazy. And we're seeing that revisited here in this show, and I kind of like it. So again, the whole Kermit being an asshole and he's flipping out at people and he's mean to Piggy and everything. It's like, well, yeah. Like, you would be too if you were in his position. So, again, didn't bother me. So those complaints, I don't know. They just don't hold much water for me. And as far as the merits of the show, like I said, it's 3 episodes in. There's room to grow and develop. I think the celebrity guests have mostly been really good. I thought Lawrence Fishburne was really funny in his brief appearance. I thought... what's his name? Nick Offerman. Ron Swanson, who's... I think Ron Swanson is my spirit animal. I love that character so much. But he had a really funny appearance. Who else was I thinking of? Elizabeth Banks was in the first episode. She got into a fight with Scooter, and that was really funny. Some of the quotes are really funny. The Muppets, the emotion is there, I think. In the first episode, it was about dealing with the breakup between Piggy and Kermit, and I thought there was a legitimately, human kind of reaction from Piggy at one point, so you had that. This last episode was about Fozzie and Kermit's friendship, and again, Kermit's an asshole, but, he was really sweet to Fozzie at the end of the episode, which I really liked, and that was cool. And again, it felt like kind of a legitimate mending the fence type of thing. Some of the quotes are really funny. That bear, not Fozzie, Bobo. I love that bear, and I have loved him ever since Muppets Tonight. Because when they did Muppets Tonight, him and Pepe were the only characters that really stuck. Because there were a bunch of new Muppets from Muppets Tonight. And the only ones that really stuck were Pepe and Bobo. And everything that bear is in, I fucking love that bear. And he had a subplot in one episode where he was just going around the office selling his daughter's chocolate for as part of their Girl Scout thing or whatever, I don't know, to get her a mountain bike. And he had so many funny lines and so many funny moments, just him going around the office selling chocolate. Like, he was talking to Kermit at one point. He's like, no, I'll get back to you later on that, Bobo. And Bobo's like, yeah, sure thing, Kermit. I'll just rip out your car battery and we'll revisit this conversation later, or something like that. And I was like, Jesus Christ, the show it sneaks in like really funny lines like that every now and then. And of course, Bobo's perfect for that because he always has really funny lines. Probably the funniest Bobo ever was in the Letters to Santa special, which, straight up kid fare. It's about being cutesy for kids and everything. Not the best thing the Muppets ever did, but Bobo interacts with Nathan Lane, and their interactions are fucking hilarious and made the whole special worth it. So if you haven't seen Letters to Santa, check it out for Nathan Lane and Bobo. More Bobo, please. I love that bear. But anyway, there's been plenty of stuff to enjoy about this show so far. So as a Muppets fan, I'm completely fine with it. There's room for improvement, sure, but I'm enjoying it and I like it. And it's nice to see the Muppets doing something different. I'm just afraid that, you know, the negative reaction is going to override everything and the show's going to get canceled. We're going to miss out on a potentially really good Muppet project because people don't like change and people have this weird misconception about pieces of the Muppets history and of Jim Henson himself. But in any case, I just wanted to come on here and defend the new Muppet show. If you have not checked it out, I recommend it. If you like the Muppets, it's worth a look. If you don't like the show, that's fine. But again, those two complaints about the show really don't make any sense to me. But with that is it for this video. My next video is going to be the question and answers video, so be on the lookout for that. That should be coming out on Tuesday. But until then, everybody enjoy your weekend and peace out.